Good afternoon, everybody. It is Dr. Joey Kramer coming to you live again from Hope Chiropractic Center, fresh off of an Easter weekend. Man, I hope you all had a very blessed Easter. He is risen. Alleluia. That is awesome. But today we're going to get down to business. And I titled this one, "Oh Look, Squirrel," because of the comical shirt that my wife likes to wear as a gift from her brother, because it talks about the prevalence of ADHD in the society that we created. I think it's very interesting. A person once told me that we as a society have created a cultural ADHD, meaning that it's a product of our environment. Think about like the constant Instagram scroll where you're always on there, scrolling through your phone, or Snapchat or Bumble or whatever the hell it is that all these kids are doing these days. But I want to jump into it and talk about ADHD from a medical diagnosed perspective, because I got a lot of kids in here that all have ADHD, and it is awesome to watch transform. So we're going to start from the very beginning. Most of you parents who have an ADHD child, God bless you, because I was an ADHD child. I was heavily medicated, and we ended up getting off the drugs using physical activity as a form of sensory input to help my brain develop the way that it needed to develop, to give me a little bit of a brake pedal when I was in the classroom environment. And it's really neat because I think my parents spent a ton of money on going to psychologists, and they would give you these tools and these tricks, tap your toes in your shoes or something. And a mom the other day told me, those work great when your child remembers to do them. And I was like, that's such a good point, because our kids, they never always remember to do their little tricks. So let's talk about it from a different world. And I want to talk to you guys about ADHD from the perspective of chiropractic care, and more specifically, a very unique type of chiropractic care, which is called Upper Cervical Chiropractic, what we happen to practice within our office. In most of our ADHD patients or our sensory deficit patients, what the issue is that our body doesn't have a brake pedal installed, right? So these kids are all gas. It means they're hyper-sympathetic, hyper-stressed. So they have high cortisol, they have high energy, they have high reaction rates. They don't really think, right? They just do, right? And so an example that I had the other day was a kid just choked another kid because he thought he was trying to be Homer Simpson and thought it was funny. And I think that's pretty funny, because it is what it is. Kids are kids. But our education system doesn't agree with us on that. So what do they decide to do? They decide to give you Ritalin, any type of over-the-counter methamphetamine that's going to sit there and try to turn your kid into a zombie, which isn't really great. The other piece of ADHD that we see is that they usually have a bad gut health, and usually they're super constipated. They have a lot of trouble going to the bathroom, and that's also due to a hypersympathetic state. So what does Upper Cervical Chiropractic have to do integrating into the ADHD field and helping our children find answers to their health? So 1, they can be a functioning adult. 2, they can function in school. And 3, they can be the perfect child for you. All the above, which can be delivered by simply focusing on one area of the spine and correcting the way that our neurological system functions. So if you don't understand or don't know much about our neurology, the human body is developed by sensory. So it's really simple to think about this. If you go into outer space and are exposed to gravity, our anti-gravity environment, you know how the astronauts, all their joints start to separate. That's because that our body is determined, or it's not determined, it's the wrong term, is reliant upon gravity to give us feedback to where we are in space. And most of our kids who are diagnosed with an attention deficit or a hyperactive disorder, they usually come into us and they have a very straight spine. What this means is that our cerebellum, which is the very base part of our skull, which is responsible for balance and coordination, as well as coordinating the signal transmission between our frontal cortex, which is where our personality is derived, and our actions and our motor responses, isn't really functioning at 100%. And this is due to a negative input into the cerebellum due to having a straight neck. And so what we have found over the last 100 years of chiropractic work is that this is very easily corrected by fixing the position of the first bone of your neck. It is called the atlas vertebrae. It says C1. And what we do is that using a very gentle, very low impact adjustment, we transform the way that the sensory information is perceived by the environment of your body. And what happens over time is that our young children who are dealing with this supposed attention deficit usually end up developing the ability to sit still in class. They have the ability to concentrate for long periods of time. There's less outbursts, less rage. We see a restoration of gut health, and we see a transformation in the entire kid. It's where our parent says, wow, I now have a quote unquote normal child. They're still going to be hyperactive, don't get me wrong on this. I just think that the transformation that takes place is that they can function in an environment that allows them to be the best version of themselves. And so what we do that is very unique at Hope Chiropractic Center is that we focus only on the top vertebrae of your neck. It is C1. And what do we do for our sensory deficit kids? Well, it's very simple. We do the same thing we do for all of our patients. Number one is we do a full neurological comprehensive evaluation. And it's very neat to watch these kids because they have a deficit of extraordinary measures. Usually during a fall test, they'll typically fall one way or the other. It's very, very blatant to see happen. We have this really fun hand test we do. It's called dysdiadokinesia. It's a way to test the way that your cerebellum fires. And there's usually a high deficit on the side opposite of your cerebellar weakness. We also do several tests involving our thermography, which is a way to look into the ability of our autonomic system, that being the balance of our gas pedal and our brake pedal, to function in an optimal environment. And in most of these kids, we do not function in an optimal environment. So what we'll do from there is that we take a series of x-rays that evaluate the position of C1 because this area is incredibly delicate. And I would not trust anyone who doesn't x-ray it because that is like just guessing on the way that our body is functioning. And by using an x-ray, we're allowed to see exactly how that bone is mispositioned, and we're allowed to understand ideally how to help your kid restore their health and become the best version of themselves. So if you are someone in a unique position that is having their child face the decision of having to be heavily medicated and turned into a zombie, and you're struggling to stay in school because of it, I'm going to tell you that the best option for you is going to be to schedule a complimentary assessment with us. We'll go through some initial neurological testing. We'll see if what we have to offer is beneficial for your child, and then we can lead to further conversations about how we can be a good fit to help you find answers that would allow your kid to function as the best version of themselves. As a father myself, the most important thing to me is that my children grow up and have the same opportunities that I had in my life, if not better opportunities. And thank God that they've had an upper cervical doctor check them from birth, because what's very unique about this care is that we do not adjust you every single visit. Our goal is to restore normal neural function and then allow your kid to develop and grow into a healthy, functioning human being. And so with that, this is my plea to you. If you're at the end of your rope, you're at the point to where you're about to be kicked out of school, maybe you're having to change educational institutes, and maybe you're trying to figure out, what do we do with my child? And that medication question comes up. I beg you to give your child a chance before putting them on these drugs, because the drugs are highly addictive, they are highly transformative in long-term health, and there's a great study out right now that shows a high correlation between using ADHD stimulants and the development of Alzheimer's as you become an adult. And the last thing that we need is for our children to transform into sick adults. That's what I got for you guys today. Now you know that what chiropractic does is restore central nervous system function. It gives your child a brake pedal. It allows their body to go through normal, optimal function, and it gives them the freedom to be the best version of themselves. So the next time you think your kid is turning into a zombie because of the drugs, you know that hope prevails and that hope exists. I hope you guys have a great day. If you all have any questions, feel free to ask me below. I would love to help you out in any way, any facet possible. God bless. Have a great rest of your day.